get started with our pre-agenda items, which are very important to us. I'm going to ask the town board to join me at the podium, and also ask Chief to join me up front, as he will temporarily take over as MC.
Thank you, Mr. Supervisor. If I can have Investigator Christopher Soprano come forward, please. You can make me work from this side. I usually work from that side.
I'll go over here.
You know what I'm saying? There, see? Your mother gets a better picture of you. We're here to present the Excellent Police Service Award to Christopher Soprano, based upon the 3 letters of recognition within 1 calendar year. And I'd like to just highlight some of the work that Officer and now Investigator Soprano has accomplished. In September, Officer Soprano was recognized for his participation in the Cops on Top program, which raised over $1,000 for Special Olympics. In December of 2018, Officer Soprano was recognized for volunteering his time to assist with the 2018 Special Olympics Law and Order event at Applebee's. And in December of 2018, Officer Soprano was recognized for his participation in Shop with a Cop, where local, needy, and deserving children and their families received a charitable shopping experience at Target, accompanied by an officer. This is sponsored by the Irondequoit Police Nightstick Club and several other community partners. These accomplishments are reflective of Officer Soprano's dedication to both the Irondequoit Police Department and the community in which he serves. Officer Soprano is therefore deserving of this Excellent Police Service Award. Congratulations. That's it. We're done. So tonight we're here to swear in Investigator Soprano. I'd like to invite his family forward, please, in order to participate in this very important and really reflects the exceptional work that Christopher does for us. Come on up, folks. Don't be shy. Got everybody? Yeah. Sure? All right. Okay. Officer Soprano has been a police officer with the Irondequoit Police Department for a number of years. He joined our agency in 2013. He's performed a number of duties associated with his road patrol assignments, as well as serving as an active investigator. I mentioned the Excellence in Police Service Award and the amount of volunteering work that he has done, and that's really the fabric of Christopher and really his entire family. Christopher has previously conducted volunteer work for Camp Good Days and Special Times, the Open Door Mission, St. Rita's Church, and we've talked about Special Olympics and Shop with a Cop. He truly understands the commitment of giving back to the community that he serves in so many ways. He is a highly decorated police officer. He received a leadership award at his Recruit Academy class. He was awarded the Dana Brown Memorial Award Recruit Class 57 recognition, which is a highly coveted award for Police Academy recruits. He's also received the Monroe County Executive Certificate of Appreciation for his commitment to stop DWI. One of the most impressive investigations, and he's been involved with several, that I just want to make mention of is when Christopher was serving as an acting investigator, he was involved with a domestic-related situation that occurred within our community. And the victim reported it, but was really hesitant to come forward. She was fearful of her safety. She was fearful of what the retribution might be in that type of a situation. And Christopher, Investigator Soprano, worked with her, built an exceptional rapport with her, was able to have her come forward, and as a result of his efforts and the efforts of his coworkers, we were able to successfully prosecute that individual and get a conviction where he is serving time in prison, and this individual, this victim of domestic violence, can go about her daily life. And I think that speaks volumes to the exceptional work that Christopher does. And with this, I'll turn it over to Supervisor Seeley for the oath of office.
Let me go. take a step up here. Who's holding the Bible? Behind you here. Left hand on the Bible. Raise your right hand. Repeat after me. I,
I,
Christopher Soprano,
Christopher Soprano,
do solemnly swear
do solemnly swear
that I will defend the Constitution
that I will defend the Constitution
of the United States
of the United States
and of the State of New York.
and of the State of New York.
I will enforce all of the laws
I will enforce all the laws
of the State of New York
of the State of New York
and the town of Arundecoit.
and the town of Arundecoit.
I will fulfill the duties
I will fulfill the duties
of the rank
of the rank
of police investigator
of police investigator
to the best of my ability.
to the best of my ability.
I will serve, protect, and guide
I will serve, protect, and guide
the citizens of the town of Arundecoit.
the citizens of the town of Arundecoit.
I will obey all orders,
I will obey all orders,
rules, and regulations
rules, and regulations
of the Arundecoit Police Department.
of the Arundecoit Police Department.
Investigator Soprano, congratulations.
Let's see here. First off, I'd like to thank Chief Tantello, the town supervisor Sealy, and the town board for this opportunity. I also like to thank my family for being here, especially my dad for all the phone calls he's received from me when I need advice and all the tips. When I was sworn in 2014, I thanked my FTOs who are all here today. I'd like to thank them again, Investigator Lape, Sergeant Hughes, and Sergeant Franco. They've continued to push me throughout my career. I'd also like to thank Investigator Wigton, who's kind of shown me the ropes the last couple of weeks and has been pretty patient with me. I'd also like to thank all the bosses and the patrolmen I've worked with over the last couple of years, and they make IPD the best place to work. So, thank you.
Do the photo op, okay?
Would you like to sign? Use the good book.
Okay, we have three more proclamations before we start our regular business. The first two are ones that we're always proud to pass. First and foremost, because they're for very worthy causes that bring attention to very worthy efforts, but also because there are two initiatives that were brought to our attention that perhaps we might not have been aware of had it not been for Arundecoit residents coming forward and approaching us about their belief in the need to town to bring attention to something that's important to them, to their families, but perhaps something that a lot of people might not be aware of. And it's so important that grassroots efforts like that help bring awareness to whether they're disorders or disabilities or certain diseases that sometimes fly under the radar because the prevalence of them might be a little bit lower than some of the more well-known adversity that people deal with. So first and foremost, I'd like to ask April Adams and her family to come forward. I'm going to ask you to watch we did not tape down the cord there, so. So we're here tonight to present, for the second year in a row, a proclamation. Don't be shy, come on guys. A proclamation recognizing Apraxia Awareness Day in the town of Arundecoit. For those of you who don't know, childhood apraxia of speech is a motor speech disorder that makes it hard for children to speak. Children with the diagnosis of apraxia of speech generally have a good understanding of language and know what they want to say. However, sometimes it's a little difficult carrying out the complex movements that underlie speech. April, with her husband Gary, Arundecoit residents on Glenmont, I believe, have started an effort called Apraxia Kids Rock. They had a very nice event last year at the library, and we'll be doing that again on Sunday, May 19th. I'll probably let April speak a little bit more about the details of that day. But again, I just want to thank you for bringing this to our attention. Obviously, something near and dear to your heart, but something I think I join my board members in welcoming, and certainly we certainly want to be able to support and bring attention to these initiatives. And I encourage other residents, if there are initiatives you feel a statement from a town board might help build support, awareness, or whatever objective you're looking to accomplish for an initiative near and dear to your heart, we're always happy to entertain those. It is not difficult for us. It's more difficult for the people bringing it before them, because they're the ones giving up the hours, hundreds of hours of their lives in dedication. So I'm going to read this in the truncated version. Whereas a great society is only as great as those organizations that perform exemplary service on behalf of their community, and whereas childhood apraxia of speech, CAS, is considered a neurological speech disorder that affects a child's ability to clearly and correctly produce syllables and words, and whereas currently the causes of CAS are uncertain and the most often no specific cause is found, and whereas this condition is often misunderstood and suffering from it can be extremely frustrating for a child as they work to develop crucial language skills because they know what they would like to say, but apraxia makes it difficult for them to properly formulate and pronounce the words. Whereas Apraxia Kids is a non-for-profit charity dedicated to strengthening the support systems in the lives of children with childhood apraxia of speech so that each child is afforded their best opportunity to develop speech and communication. And whereas greater public awareness and education about this challenging speech disorder will help ensure more is done to increase support for those affected as well as their families. Now, therefore, let it be known that we, Supervisor David A. Seeley, and the Irondequoit Town Board, on behalf of the entire town of Irondequoit, join with Apraxia Kids in recognizing May 14th, 2019 as Apraxia Awareness Day in the town of Irondequoit and offer our support in raising awareness about this rare disorder. So declared on this day, the 16th day of April 2019. So April and Gary, thank you again for bringing this to our attention. Kids, thanks so much.
This is Ellie. Ooh, I'm gonna lift her up. She wants to say something. Did you want to say something? No, you don't want to say something anymore? That's okay. I'll say it for you. So, Ellie was diagnosed with childhood apraxia of speech at 3 years old. And just like Supervisor Seeley said, it is a very challenging disorder. She has come so far with all of her hard work, and we're so proud of her and all the other children around our area who have struggled with apraxia, that we decided we wanted to have a special celebration to just celebrate how far they've come and how amazing they are and resilient. So he did mention that we're having our Apraxia Awareness Day celebration. It's going to be at the Irondequoit Public Library on Sunday, May 19th at 1:30 p.m. We are also doing an Apraxia Awareness art exhibit, which is going to be featured at the Imaginarium from May 6th until June 10th. So if you have a chance to stop and check that out, please do. It's going to be art all by the children who have apraxia and the children who are affected by apraxia, so probably siblings too. And I just want to say thank you so much for having us, and thank you for the proclamation again this year. We appreciate it.
Want to do a picture?
Sure. Thank you so much.
You're welcome.
So our next proclamation is another one that actually for the past several years, this town board has been very happy to advance and pass. I'd like to invite Angelo Kim and Ella Colazzo to join us. As I said, for the past several years, this town board has been proud to sponsor a proclamation to bring awareness to osteogenesis imperfecta, also known as OI, or commonly known as brittle brittle bone disease. We've worked with Angelo, Kim, and Ella over the past several years to bring awareness to this rare disease, which is part of a broad effort known as the Allie Shea Project, which Angelo and his wife Kim started after losing their brave daughter Allie to OI now 10 years ago, correct? As I said, grassroots initiatives like this are so important, mainly because this is a disease, frankly, that most know very little about. It impacts very few children. Less than 1,000%, 1 in 200,000 children are born with AI. So it's a very good chance that if Angelo, Kim, and Ella weren't doing what they do, people in the greater Rochester area might not be aware of this. But they have done a lot of work and invested a lot of hours to bring attention to this disorder or this disease. It is done in the memory of their daughter who fought bravely for 5 weeks. Angelo, Kim have raised awareness and funds for OI. I'll let them describe more in thorough, but we're happy to advance this and present this once again from the town board on behalf of the town of Arundecoit, and I'll just read it. Whereas osteogenesis imperfecta, OI, also known as brittle bone disease, is a genetic disorder characterized by fragile bones that break easily. A person is born with this disorder and is affected throughout his or her lifetime. And whereas there are different types of OI with a range of severity from mild to life-threatening, and whereas increased funding for education and research are needed to help find more effective treatments, and it is important there be no greater public awareness of rare disorders and diseases of unmet need, and more must be done to increase support of those affected as well as their families. And whereas Arundecoit resident Allie Shea Colazo was born with OI and lived a miraculous 5 weeks battling the disease until passing away on May 21st, 2009. And whereas the Allie Shea Project has worked for the past several years to increase awareness of OI and has successfully raised thousands of dollars for research to help support families. Now, therefore, let it be known that Supervisor David A. Seeley and the town board, on behalf of the entire town of Arundecoit, join with others across our state and country, including the Osteogenesis Imperfecta Foundation, in recognizing May 4th through 11th, 2019 as Osteogenesis Imperfecta Week, and offer support in raising awareness about this rare disorder, so declared on this day, the 16th day, April 2019. Thank you, Angela and Kim.
Once again, Supervisor Seeley and Town Board, thank you so much for this honor. This past Sunday was Allie's 10th birthday, and it's very hard to believe that we've been doing this for 10 years. When we found out we were pregnant, we were very happy, like everybody should be. At our 20-week ultrasound, well, Kim's 20-week ultrasound, our doctor called us 10:45 at night, and that's not normal for a doctor to call you back that late. And he said Allie's arms and legs were 4 weeks behind the rest of her body. Her torso was at 20 weeks, her arms and legs were at 16 weeks. He wanted us to come back just to make sure it wasn't a mismeasurement, because the babies are moving around a lot, and he said the tech could have just made a mismeasurement. We went back, didn't get any sleep that night, went back, and it was confirmed her arms and legs were 4 weeks behind where they should have been. So after countless other ultrasounds, he finally released us to Strong, and we went there, and every 2 weeks we got a different ultrasound, and every 2 weeks we got a different diagnosis or disorder, and nobody knew what was going on to the day that she was born. The day that Allie was born was our greatest day and also our worst day, because they came into our room 2 hours later, told us that Allie had osteogenesis imperfecta, and we had no clue what that was. And then the geneticist broke it down to us, and they really didn't expect her to live past the night, but she made it for 5 weeks. We were actually getting ready to bring her home. She was doing that well before she took her turn to worse. And when I worked for West Arundecoit School District, and I used to talk to the classes about OI, and the one thing I always tell them is that I had 2 choices. We could just got like a bunch of ice cream and sat in a corner and cried our heart out, which I still do. Or I could have just made something positive out of it, and I choose to make something positive. So we started the Allie Shea Project. And over the 10 years, we have done plenty of awareness events, talks. My daughter, Ella, which is Allie spelled backwards, she's our CEO of Cuteness, and we make a lot of awareness videos and just try to get people more aware of OI, because people like to see her face more than mine. And also one of the things that we do to bring awareness to this disease is we send care packages all over the world to children who has this disease. And so far we sent 179 care packages to 41 out of the 50 states and to 10 countries. And to me, I feel I'm never doing enough, but I always get emails and calls from parents thanking them because a person with OI, their bones are like really fragile and they could break so easily. Just the simple act of coughing, sneezing could cause a fracture. The one that stands out the most is this one child broke her leg during the summertime and she wasn't able to play with the rest of her friends. And her mother asked for a care package, and when she got it, she said, "This is the first time my daughter has smiled in like months." And that's a good feeling, knowing that you're making a difference. But with proclamations like this and the weight of the board behind us, it makes our job a lot easier because people start taking attention. And like I said, it's really hard for just the three of us to do this. And I believe we're the only constant awareness in all of New York State. And we have things planned, and I try to start a challenge like the ALS Water Bucket Challenge. And it's gaining steam. We have people in England take it, California, all over the world take it so far. And we're very thankful for this. And this helps us to help others. Like I said, I can't believe it's been 10 years already. And this awareness band for OI, I have not taken it off in 10 years. This is my badge, this is my honor, and I promised Allie that I would keep her fight alive, and that's what I'm gonna do, well, we are gonna do. So thank you so much, and this is just another victory in the battle to help raise awareness of this disease, and hopefully more knowledge will get out, because believe it or not, there's doctors out there who don't know how to handle somebody with OI. They would just send them away and say, well, go somebody else. And we wanna stop that, because everybody needs medical attention, even though they know it or not. Everybody needs medical attention, and everybody needs help. So thank you so much for helping me.
Prettier next year somehow. Okay, we'll take a brief recess and then gavel in at 7. Good evening. I now call to order the April 16th, 2019 regular town board meeting of the Town of Arundequoit Town Board. Visitors are invited to join the board members in rising to recite the Pledge of Allegiance. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Roll call, Councilwoman Hush LeRae.
Here.
Councilman Perticone.
Here.
Councilwoman Romeo.
Here.
Councilman Weiner.
Here.
Supervisor Sealy.
Here. Excuse me. Thank you, Madam Clerk. We have a modest agenda. I'll note we have 2 public hearings tonight that will commence at 7:35. I'd like to thank the folks who attended our pre-meeting special occasion. Those were very nice, and always like to recognize the achievements of our police officers and also very worthy events, provide our support for those, so we're always happy to do that. Before we start with our business meeting, just some brief remarks. So as was the case in February with the 3rd graders in West Arundequoit, late March and early April saw us serve host to 6 second grade classes from Ivan Green School in East Arundequoit. We're always happy to have the kids. One requirement, I tell the kids, it is pursuant to town law that they have to pose for photographs with the supervisor. The first is a serious, the second is a goofy one, and the third is dabbing. And for those of you at home who don't know what dabbing is, you can probably see what the kids are doing right there. It is very popular with the second graders. So thank you to the kids and the parents and the teachers from Ivan Green. Tomorrow, April 17th, we will host our 3rd annual Senior Health Expo. This event will take place at Bishop Kearney High School in the cafeteria, which is in the rear of the school. and will take place between 9 a.m. and noon. This has become an annual mainstay in our community and is a one-stop shop for seniors to learn about the various health and human service organizations in our community. We've grown in size pretty substantially since the first year, 2 years ago, so we moved to a larger space over at Bishop Kearney, and we thank them for their hospitality. We also thank St. Cecilia's for hosting us as we got off the ground the first 2 years. Again, that's tomorrow from 9 a.m. to noon at Bishop Kearney High School. If you're like me, you're probably doing a lot of spring cleaning, both in and outside of the house. Our 2019 brush pickup program is now back in full gear. A reminder, we operate on a quadrant cycle system. For more information, visit aroundaquoit.org or call the brush hotline at 336-6090 and go for option 3. The State of New York Department of Transportation will be starting a much-needed and long overdue rehabilitation of Empire Boulevard this spring and summer. This will span from Culver Road in Aroundaquoit city border all the way to Gravel Road in Webster. It's a 2-year process, a 2-year project. The first span will take place from Gravel Road to Hellendale Road, and then the following year, the construction on the moving westward to Culver Road. A lot of residents have asked why Aroundaquoit is in the second year. The primary reason for that is actually a good one. The state will be installing a sidewalk on the southern portion of Empire Boulevard, which if you live in that neighborhood is much needed. It requires a lot of easements being received from the residents and homeowners, so it's going to take a little bit longer. So we'll see parts of that commencing near the 590 interchange, but really ramping up full next year. And again, we thank the state for that investment. Our annual Little League opening day parade will take place on Saturday, April 27th. Lineup will take place at the Aroundaquoit Town Hall gazebo at 8:30. And as I promised the Little Leaguers last year, there will be no lengthy ceremonies or speeches standing in the way of them playing ball this year. So our approval rating amongst the Little Leaguers should rise substantially after that parade. It is very low. The 6th annual Invigorate Aroundaquoit will take place on Saturday, May 4th. This is our annual townwide cleanup. Volunteers are needed to invigorate Aroundaquoit by picking up debris from parks, planting flowers and gardening, mulching playground areas, and more. As always, we'll convene at the Town Hall gazebo at 8:30 a.m. We have a free light breakfast served. We'll dispatch our volunteers at 9 a.m. and at 11 a.m. we will return for a lunch. This is a great team building exercise for your business, organization, family, neighborhood, etc. Please register by emailing invigorate@aroundaquoit.org or by calling 336-6070. The first 100 volunteers receive a free t-shirt. Again, that's Saturday, May 4th. Also International Star Wars Day. Conversion to digital and paperless for our town board proceedings has proven to be a more efficient way with regards to planning our board meetings and the lead-up that allows us to operate efficiently and effectively. Just this month alone, going paperless with our new system saved us nearly 1,000 pieces of paper, as board members can now access their agendas and resolutions through a new system we've just rolled out. Multiply that by 12 meetings, and you're really putting a dent, and every little bit helps. Many thanks to Nate Stone, Maria Vecchio from my staff for helping implement that system, and to Barb Janier for her continued work to ensure our meetings are conducted efficiently and with transparency. A reminder that town offices will be closed on Friday, April 19th, in observation of Good Friday. And finally, at last week's workshop meeting, we presented our Staff Spotlight Award, as we normally do, to Tommy Albert, our labor foreman with the Department of Public Works. There's Tommy on TV there. Tommy oversees all of our paving operations, snow and ice removal, and safety for DPW. He's always willing to go above and beyond to serve the town. We're very proud of Tommy. Congratulations. With that, we're going to do a special proclamation. Just a little leadway, and then I'll ask Luana Jones from the Autism Council perhaps to come to the podium and just say a few words about what we're moving forward with tonight, and then we'll present the proclamation to her. But the growth of and the prevalence of autism spectrum disorder, with more than 3.5 million Americans living with a diagnosis, really has transformed American life, I'd argue, in a good way. It's required us to reimagine how we deliver health care, education, and other vital services to those living with a very complex disorder, as well as to their families. It's also required organization that interfaces with all members of our society to take the initiative to better understand autism and how to communicate effectively with those living with autism spectrum disorder, ASD. the goal of which is to provide for an inclusive community. The town of Arundecoit has been proud to be a leader in this regard. Our recreation staff has received training on working with autistic children and other children with special needs. The Arundecoit Police Department, I will note, has done an exceptional job and has worked with the Autism Council and has taken great initiative to ensure that with really the goal of serving all members of our community equally, officers are provided with training and knowledge to help them better communicate and interact with autistic residents. Some of the kindest notes I'll note, or correspondence that I receive or have received in my 3 years in office, have been from family members or siblings or residents who have observed our officers and the way that they have communicated and calmed a situation and taken care and used that knowledge base to effectively engage with some autistic constituents. And I will say it's some of the most genuine correspondence I've received. Recently, we made a decision to expand upon this tradition, leading the way with regards to creating a community supportive of those living with autism. And with that, I know we're diverting from script. I would just invite Luana to come up, and then we'll present you the proclamation. But why don't you just say a little bit about who you are, the Autism Council, and what this designation tonight means and entails.
Thank you, Supervisor Seeley, and everyone here at the town board tonight. Thank you all for allowing me to at least say a couple things. I am the founder of the Autism Council of Rochester. I have a 29-year-old daughter who is autistic. I've lived in the town of Gates for almost 22 years, and I serve the county of Monroe, really, when it comes to autism. So my agency has been around for 14 years. We have a full board of directors made up of parents and grandparents and employers, and so we've got a lot of experience around autism. One thing I would like to say is the town, you mentioned it, the town of Arundecoit has taken the lead in this community when it comes to supporting people on the autism spectrum. So this designation, I think, it's just the extension of the work that you all have already done. Even the police department, IPD, I mean, these guys, Kylie Nichols is awesome. I've worked with her also, and Officer Lawton here. Great guys, great bunch of guys, and so I'm proud to come this evening and present you with the proclamation, the designation of autism-friendly community. It is the second community or town in this community that is getting the designation. I think I mentioned to you on Friday, I'll also share this with the governor and the Office of Persons with Developmental Disabilities. So it's a great designation. There are 8 pillars of performance, and there is a checklist which we sent over to you. And the questions, I mean, it was an easy thing for me to go through the checklist without even going through it with Officer Lawton. You guys exemplify what it means to support your community members with autism, and there are a lot of families actually in Arundecoit. So when we put this out, that you were getting the designation, you should have seen all the comments. I mean, there's a lot of folks in this community that you touch, and their extended support is well received. So definitely would love to go ahead and present you with that this evening. Well deserved, and I'm very, very, very proud of the work that you all do here in the town of Arundecoit.
Thank you. I'm going to ask my board members to join me up front. And would you be so kind to read the proclamation, put you on the spot? It's size 12 font, so
Also, what I'll share with you this evening, there is a window decal that will go in your community, so it could go in a business. It's called Autism Friendly Community Designation. It'll go on the windows of your town and also in some of the businesses in the community. So,
would you come up here? This mic's on.
hot mic, huh?
There you go, hot mic.
All right, proclamation, Town of Arundecoit, New York. Whereas autism is the fastest growing developmental disability in the world today, with more than 3.5 million Americans living with autism. And whereas hope lies in an informed public and community committed to providing support and service to individuals with autism spectrum disorder with special needs and their families. Whereas the town of Arundecoit acknowledges its citizens with autism as valued members of our community and recognizes the importance of education and support concerning autism. And whereas the town of Arundecoit is committed to partnering with the Autism Council, a not-for-profit organization committed to the mission of educating and training families, professionals, and the public to better understand this lifelong diagnosis. Whereas the town of Arundecoit is committed to becoming inclusive and free of physical and social barriers and aspires to provide equal opportunities to all persons with autism and other special needs. Now, therefore, be it resolved that we, Supervisor David A. Seeley, and the town board, hereby proclaim on behalf of the town of Arundecoit and its citizens that the town of Arundecoit is an autism-friendly community. And be it further resolved that the town of Arundecoit is committed to increasing awareness and support for individuals with autism and other special needs, along with education and training for the community. So declared on this day, the 16th day of April 2019, we declare the town of Arundecoit as autism-friendly community.
Want to pose for a picture real quick? Why don't you hold that? Come on up there.
Last one. Great. Thank you.
So Chief is always good about making sure that his officers are recognized, and you might have noted Officer Lawden and Officer Nichols flanking Luana, and they, as the current and most recent past member of our community service, the community liaison officer, really are charged with working with groups like the Autism Council. So they did a lot of the engagement with Autism Council, and the work the IPD. They're really the boots on the ground to help facilitate that. So kudos to Chief, the department, and all of our other staff for being leaders in that regard. With that, I'm going to get my bearings, and we will move on to public input. Did anybody sign up for public input? Mr. Goldblatt, please come forward. Just say, as usual, say your name and address.
Once again, after a happy and pleasant presentation, I have to bring everything down. It's my lot in life. Jeff Goldblatt, 128 Parkside Crescent. I was planning on talking about recycling and how it affects all of us, but I'm going to put that off for another time and instead talk about the unfortunate case of Mrs. Jean Diurna, and there are broader implications above and beyond the tragic accident. First of all, as a bicyclist and a walker, I would encourage anyone who is on a designated postal motor route to please consider replacing your mailbox with a two-sided mailbox. There's some right here on Titus Avenue. No one should be standing at the street to collect their mail. In fact, this is the second time in Monroe County that someone has been killed getting their mail at the mailbox. Last time it was in Webster. Secondly, this unfortunate situation confirms what I have been mentioning for year after year after year. A roll-off box, which is essentially a movable dump truck body, has a back door that opens and closes. Therefore, at the 4th of July, it is unnecessary to incur the interdepartmental cost to use a high lift to put trash into a roll-off box. There's a savings there. And that event needs to be recontainerized, which is a separate discussion. Now on to the main event. What this unfortunate situation proves is something else that has been going on for far too long in this town, and that is the small roll-off only firms are not present and accounted for. They are not licensed in. What does that mean? It means that a firm who is engaged in that work has to fill out a form with all the company information that's necessary. They need to post a performance bond and have proof of insurance. Whether it's this firm or any other firm, the town has zero information on this whatsoever. Years ago, when the commission was in place, it was discussed. And the commissioner at that time said words to the effect of, well, these firms aren't here all the time, why should we bother? Well, the town has lost a considerable amount of money over the last 20 years by not having these firms present and accounted for, and unfortunately, we now have a lost resident. In my opinion, now's the time to start to deal with this. When I've asked about this in the past, I've been told, well, we send the forms out and nothing comes back. At the risk of repeating myself from last November's budget presentation, this becomes your Bible. You, instead of reaching out to the companies who don't respond, you contact every roofing company, every general contractor, and the estate sale firms. Dear contractor, the town of Arundequoit doesn't care who you hire as long as the firm that you hire is licensed in. Attached is the form necessary. Please have the firm in question fill it out and send it in with requisite payment. Love and kisses, the town of Arundequoit. There's some 24 companies involved in this work, plus 4 that are mini haulers. The best well-known is 1-800-GOT-JUNK. They are in the area. But there's a whole bunch of others that you folks have never heard of. And I'm not implying that everybody has dilapidated equipment or alleged dilapidated equipment. Some of them work just fine, but you don't know who they are. On top of that, even if they're all in, there's a provision in the code that all equipment needs to be examined. Town of Greece does this. We do too, or at least we should, but I've never heard of it happening. And that's done by the commissioner and or someone that he designates. So you don't wind up with dilapidated equipment, as was the case when Heberly Disposal was falling apart 6 years ago, as was the case last year when Farrer Rubbish was falling apart and nearly caused a major traffic accident on Hudson Avenue to boot. You want to be sure that everything doesn't have to be showroom sparkly and shiny, but roadworthy and capable of passing a DOT inspection, not a Jeff inspection. There are rules. For example, the truck that's in your impound, if that was full, it would be an even worse situation, and the question I would then ask is, where's your tarp? There has to be one. Nowadays, most of those trucks have automatic tarpers. In fact, I think the town of Arundequoit actually has a couple of trucks with automatic tarpers. And if it's not there, then the situation grows worse. And then on top of all of that, if everybody is present and accounted for, there are no follow-ups. There was no follow-ups when Heberly was falling apart. There were no follow-ups when Farrer was falling apart. There were no follow-ups when Community Waste Services was in here and before they collapsed and fell apart. The town took no action. Most recently, on April 5th, 12 homes on 2 streets were missed by Al's Casella, who hasn't even sent notices out to tell people that there's been a change. It took 5 days, counting the weekend, for another truck to come back and clear those homes. I called it in, and once again, nothing. You have to follow up if there's a problem rather than letting things fester or hopefully just go away. Or you wind up with a situation like this is what I showed you last year. I don't even know who owns this crappy equipment. Maybe the firm that was involved in this unfortunate accident.
Mr. Goldbeck, I'll just ask you to try and wrap it up, and
I'm just about there.
appreciate it. Thank you.
Read my mind. The code has to be amended to make sure that everything is properly labeled with name and phone number, as is the case with the regular haulers that are in town every week. Which also proves the point that I made last fall, which is Public Works needs to focus on public works. Streets, sewers, sidewalks, trees. Licensing, just as the other towns that license do, needs to go through the town clerk's office. To the extent that I'm able, I'm happy to assist. But what you have right now isn't making it. And that's my message.
Thank you, sir. Would anyone else wish to address the board in public input? Okay, we will now move on to our financial report. Madam Comptroller.
Thank you, Supervisor. The 2019 financial results for the town as of March 31st, total expenses, actual as well as encumbered, are $9,784,000 or 27.6% of budget, which is higher than the 25% of the year that has elapsed. The breakdown is actual expenses $7,083,000 and encumbrances $2,701,000. Encumbrances are typically high early in the year as departments establish and commit to commodities, services, and supplies that will be needed throughout the year. The general fund expenses are above 25% at 27.5% of budget, or $5,801,000. Here's the breakdown. Actual expenditures, $4,495,000. Encumbered expenses, $1,306,000. The annual unexpended energy cost of the general fund street lighting account is part of the general fund encumbrances. Also included in the encumbrances are installment debt for equipment leased by the sidewalks, trees, cemetery, parks, and police departments, as well as attorney fees and contracted expenses throughout the town. Together, the expenses in the highway funds are $1,818,000, 31.6% of budget, above the 25% of the year that has elapsed. Driving the high cost in highway are encumbrances for salt, gas, fuel, installment debt, and equipment parts. Also, in Highway 4, there is higher than budgeted snow removal overtime labor cost. Expenses in the library are favorable to budget at 16.8%, $433,000. The sewer fund expenses are 26.6% of budget, $1,085,000. The expenses in stormwater drainage are $159,000, 19.9% of budget. With the exception of Highway 4, actual expenses excluding encumbrances in the major town funds are less than 25% of budget. The general fund revenue received is $11,921,000, 57% of budget. Real estate taxes are all in at $11,090,000. The payment in lieu of taxes received are approximately $159,000, 72.6% of budget. No other significant revenue is due at this time. The town has recorded $181,000 of unbudgeted street lighting audit revenue. This amount will be offset by roughly $44,000 of expense, which represents 24% of the refund. Regarding the entire town, $23.3 million or 66.5% of revenue and appropriated fund balance have been received to date. Approximately $17.2 million is real estate tax. At month end, the library had received 92% of its budgeted revenue, $2,374,000. Highway has received $4,102,000, 72.3% of budget. Sewer is at 98.4% of budget, $3,980,000. Stormwater drainage has received a total of $757,000. That fund is at 97.9% of revenue. This report is a quarterly report. It presents the first quarter summary and comparison to the prior 6 years. Page 3, the top of page 3, shows expenditures by fund. The percent of total current budget spent and encumbered is 27.6%, and is basically the same as 2018, same as last year. However, the 27.6% is somewhat lower than the first quarter of the previous 2 years. It is also notable that the general fund and highway expenses trend the same as the total. Library is down from last year and sewer is up. The middle third of the third page shows the pertinent sources of revenue for the general fund. The bottom third of the page shows the revenue comparisons of the other funds, and the last line reflects the bottom line collective revenue and fund balance for the town. The general fund revenue of 57% is lower than prior years, primarily due to lesser amounts of one-time unbudgeted revenue this year, and less appropriated fund balance than prior years. The total town revenue and fund balance of 66.5% is slightly lower than prior years and is for the same reasons that I just mentioned for the general fund. This concludes my financial report for the month of March 2019.
Thank you, Annie. Any questions from board members on the, either the March financial report, end of March financial report or the quarterly? Hearing none, take a motion to accept the financial report.
Moved.
And a second.
Second.
Questions, discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Financial report is accepted. Approval of minutes, Madam Clerk?
March 12th, 2019, the workshop meeting.
Motion?
Moved.
And a second.
Second.
Questions, comments, revisions? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Minutes are approved.
March 19th, 2019, the regular town board meeting.
Motion?
Moved.
And a second.
Second.
Questions, comments, revisions? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Minutes are approved. Okay, Madam Clerk, as I discussed, we're now going to move on to the two resolutions under Human Resources. I'll give board members a chance to catch up, but when you are ready, Madam Clerk.
Item number 14, authorizing the appointment of a laborer in the Bureau of Public Works.
Motion
Moved.
and a second.
Second.
Thank you. Mr. Vinette, explanation, please.
Thank you, Supervisor Seeley. Due to a resignation, we have the need to fill a vacancy in the title of laborer. Upon recommendation of Commissioner Kiley, I put forth the name of Cameron Gadomski to fill this position. Cameron is a town resident that has worked seasonally in Public Works for the past 2 years.
Thank you. Mr. Kiley, further explanation, please.
Thank you, Mr. Supervisor. Mr. Gadomski has indeed worked for us for 2 summers in the Department of Public Works on a variety of different road crews, in sanitation, storm, on the highway side, resurfacing, potholes. Really, Cameron has flexed into every different division within the Department of Public Works. He's highly recommended from all of his actions throughout the department by our current employees, and I'm very happy to put his name to town board this evening for permanent appointment full-time with the department.
Thank you. Any questions or comments for the commissioner? Okay, with that, I just want to welcome you aboard, Mr. Gadomski. I've heard very good things about you. This resolution would approve the appointment of Cameron J. Gadomski as a laborer at a rate of $18.90 per hour as per the union contract. Do I have no questions and comments? All those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? Resolution is adopted. Why don't you stand up, wave to the folks at home. Congratulations. We'll now do number 15, Ms.
Item
Madam
number
Clerk.
15, authorizing the appointment of a provisional police captain.
Motion
Sorry.
Moved.
and a second.
Second.
Mr. Vinette, explanation, please, and then to Chief.
Thank you. Due to the pending retirement of Captain Mark Bean, we seek to hire a police captain. Because there is no existing civil service lists of eligible candidates, we'll need to make a provisional appointment. That appointee will need to take the captain's exam later this year. To qualify for that provisional appointment, a candidate needs to have served 2 years as a police lieutenant or 3 years as a police sergeant. The selection committee has interviewed 4 candidates, and we recommend Lieutenant Alan Laird as the next captain of the Irondequoit Police Department.
Thank you, Chief.
Thank you, Mr. Supervisor. As Director Vinette indicated, the selection committee has recommended Lieutenant Alan Laird to move forward as the police captain within the Irondequoit Police Department. Lieutenant Laird has extensive background in law enforcement. He was hired by the Irondequoit Police Department in July of 2000. He was promoted to the rank of sergeant and was the commanding officer of the Field Training Officers Unit. 2017, he was promoted to the rank of lieutenant. He's currently assigned to the 2nd Platoon and oversees all operations of that platoon, which is our daytime operation. He's the commanding officer of the Technicians Unit. He's assisting in the coordination of our training operation and assisted with the deployment and implementation of our body-worn cameras. He's been involved in every aspect of the law enforcement profession, whether it was criminal investigations, traffic enforcement, crime scene technician, and training unit, as I mentioned. In particular, with training, he is a defensive tactics instructor and a firearms instructor, a state security guard instructor, which are critical areas for our personnel to be trained in. He's a highly decorated police officer. If you've seen over the years, as we've done our commendation awards, before the town board and the public, and we're very excited to be able to move forward for this important position within the Arundecoy Police Department and recommending Alan Laird.
Thank you. Any questions for Chief or Mr. Vanette? I'll just say I'm happy to support this and happy to make this appointment. Do it with a somewhat heavy heart in that obviously the vacancy being created is due to retirement of Captain Bean, who I've had the pleasure of serving with over the past several years. But I'm very confident that Lieutenant Laird, as acting captain, will fill those shoes and serve with distinction. He's a man of integrity, certainly someone who is, I guess, represents the best of the Arundecoy Police Department. So we're very, I think, I won't speak for the board, but I'm very happy to appoint him into this even larger leadership position. I will warn you, it does involve more time spent in my office. You don't have a choice in that, because I think the chief always likes to bring an accomplice with him. But very happy to move this forward, and congratulations to you and your family. Any further questions? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Resolution is adopted. Acting Captain Laird, please stand and be recognized. What time do we got? Okay, we can move on, I guess, get through a couple resolutions. We'll go to number 3, Madam Clerk.
Item number 3, calling for a public hearing on the matter of granting a special use permit for 1268 East Ridge Road in a C Business District.
Motion
Moved.
and a second.
Second.
Ms. Ivers, explanation, please.
Thank you, Supervisor. This application is for a special use permit associated with a proposed Jiffy Lube at this location. For geographic reference, this is the redevelopment site located next to the most recently developed Well-Now Aspen Dental on the corner of East Ridge Road and Portland Avenue. The special use permit is required because the Jiffy Lube is designated or characterized as a public garage, and in our code, that particular use needs a special use from this board. This particular project will also require site plan approval by the planning board, which we anticipate in May, and there may be potentially some zoning board application regarding area variances. So this application will set the public hearing for next month, refer the application to the planning board for comment on the use, and be the kickoff of the review process associated with the redevelopment project.
Very good. Any questions or comments? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Resolution is adopted, and we can now commence our 2 public hearings. Madam Clerk.
Okay, public hearing number 1 on the matter of amending Town Code Chapter 235, Article 22, Regulation of Telecommunications.
Motion
Moved.
and a second, motion to open public hearing.
Moved.
And a second.
Second.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? The hearing is now open. Ms. Ivers, if you will, an explanation on the proposed law and the necessity, and then I might ask a town attorney for an explanation on its relevance to proceedings of the FCC.
Thank you. So the proposed local law identifies and introduces amendments to Article 22 of Chapter 235 of the Town Code, and that's the regulation of telecommunications. The bulk of the edits are related to providing specific language around microcell or small cell cellular facilities, including microcell antennas and the related equipment. Specifically, how they may be located also in the right-of-way. Our previous code didn't contemplate small cell provisions, and so this update really does bring our code into compliance with the FCC order. So this is really a required change. While we're making those changes to reflect the FCC order, we also took the opportunity to provide some clarity or streamlining of equipment changes at existing, previously approved standard or traditional cellular tower locations in the town. And so that provided an opportunity just to streamline processes to make things more efficient when it comes to changing out equipment, updating what's already been approved in the past.
Thank you. Now just to pose to Town Attorney Smith, the recent FCC ruling necessitated adoption of this law within a, was it 120-day period?
180 days within filing with the order within the Federal Register. There's a provision of the FCC order that indicates that a local municipality should be able to regulate aesthetic information regarding the small cells within 180 days, or I'm sorry, establish and publish aesthetic considerations within a 180-day period. So that 100-day period elapsed actually yesterday, April 15th. The FCC order was challenged. It has not yet been stayed by the court, but since our regulations have been established and published and made known, and the intention of the town board to consider at tonight's public hearing, we're within that deadline of April 15th.
So I'm gonna, bar an objection, ultimately, most likely move for adoption tonight, reserving the right to amend in the future, but we feel it's important to get, the framework down, and I think, actually, I don't foresee many changes, if any, but Carrie's done a nice job working with Laura on this. The FCC ruling in effect says, I don't want to say limits the town's abilities to approve or deny the placing of these, but really, when, correct me if I'm wrong, if pursuant to the FCC order, if the carrier does determine that it is needed and coverage is needed in the area, that does carry a lot of weight perhaps over the interest of the town to regulate where these towers are placed?
So that actually was pursuant to the 1996 Telecommunications Act. What this FCC order did is really finite and put granular the interpretation of the Telecommunications Act as they apply to small cells. And they narrowed the windows quite a bit for the shot clocks and put forth the provision that we're considering this evening, which is the aesthetic considerations have to be established and published so that small cell carriers can be aware of what's going to be expected of them.
Thanks, and perhaps this is a question for Ms. Ivers. We saw with the first round of these, I think it was last year, a lot of duplicative paperwork and really redundant work by, I think, all three town boards that do land use review. This will, I don't say streamline, but put more under the purview of administrative review, correct?
Correct. So the large majority of small cell facilities, especially those located on or co-located on existing public utility poles in the right-of-way, could be administratively reviewed if they met the requirements as stated in the code. And so that's really meant to streamline the process. As this board will remember, and I can certainly attest to, it was a lot of documentation to meet our former, or what is our current code, the requirements, and there was no way to avoid having to come through all three boards. This will change that.
Thank you.
And if I may add, just to Carrie's point, there was no distinction in our prior code of the 200-foot towers that were going in really when the code was originally promulgated versus taking in consideration these small cells. That's a big distinction between the two versions of our code.
Absolutely.
Thank you. Any other board members have questions?
No, just thank you to Laura and Carrie for your work on this.
Okay, with that, I didn't see any members of the public signed up to speak at this public hearing, but I believe this gentleman is interested. And do me a favor, sir. The floor is yours, but just identify yourself and your address, if you will. Thank you.
Yeah, I'm sorry, I saw the sign-up sheet a little late. My
okay.
name is Tom Greiner, attorney at Nixon Peabody, here on behalf of Verizon Wireless. And first of all, I'd like to apologize for two things. Number one, I'm kind of underdressed. Long story as to where my suit coat is, but I apologize for that. And number two, I also apologize for the kind of 11th hour nature of our comments. You would have gotten these Friday afternoon. I found out about this on Thursday afternoon. So wasn't a lot of time for me to look at it, but certainly you've been processing it for quite a while. Having said that, I have a couple questions. And I'd also like to say that I've drafted these ordinances over the last 35 years. I've reviewed many of them. I think this is one of the better ones I've ever seen, and I commend the town for that. I think this is really an excellent job. The comments that we have, I don't know if the board itself has seen my letter.
I don't believe so, and our intent was to most likely adopt and then review probably in subsequent months. But I have seen it.
Yeah.
And if you want to just walk through,
I'm actually not even going to do that. I don't want to take up your time. I appreciate the fact that you felt compelled to get this done. And I'm confident that if you see anything of merit in my letter, that you'll take it under consideration. Just briefly, I would suggest that you do use the federal definition of small cell, to make it easier going forward. Another comment that I have that's actually not in my letter, but just as a suggestion, and that is these small cells are different than the standard, what you call standard facility, what we call a macro cell. These things are going to be all over the place, pretty much everywhere, in order to roll out 5G and to make it state of the art. And so your traditional analysis, excuse me, where you're looking for proof of why do you have to be here, and is there a better site, or is there, this whole area, why do you need to be here, is in a sense going to become irrelevant. Because these things really are going to be pretty much ubiquitous. They're going to be all over the place.
Thank you for reminding us.
Yeah, sorry. I'm a resident too. So I think the idea, the camouflage, the attempt to, these things are small to begin with, and if the companies are doing the right job, then you're not going to really be. They won't have an impact like the towers did. There were a couple of points in the ordinance I just simply didn't understand, but I don't need to go over that tonight. You can always talk to staff about that later. I set out where I thought that I didn't understand it. So then the only other point I have is I see you're deferring the fees to a town board resolution, not in the ordinance, but just in however you pass fees. And I guess I would just say I would urge the town, like a lot of towns are doing, to stay, I'll put it this way, as close to the FCC numbers as possible. I think it's probably in everybody's interest to get this deployed as quickly as possible. And I can tell you from experience that there are cities or municipalities that just see dollar signs here, and they're going to be passed by. They won't have 5G for a long time because just simply there's not the money to spend on much money to spend beyond the actual capital expenditures. So I just urge the town to consider that as you at some point you're going to roll out your fee structure on this.
Yeah, the deferment was not an intent to, avoid the FCC, parameters, but we're not viewing this as a cash cow either.
Right.
And I will say this, I don't speak on behalf of the board, but we do recognize the interest of building out the network and just the benefits that brings. So I'm not say it's a balancing act, but we're certainly not putting this in place to be obstructive of that.
No, and in fact, I think that's pretty clear from your ordinance that you're not. And again, I commend the town for it.
Ms. Ivers, anything to add?
Just to note that we don't include the fee as part of the local law, because then any future change to the fee structure that might be required would require a local law to amend the code. So that's one of the reasons we keep it separate. We aren't advancing it at this month's meeting because we wanted to take a little bit more time. We have a recently updated fee schedule for our department. This is another fee that would be added to that building department schedule. And what we wanted to do is take another moment because we were noticing some minor other changes we might want to make at the same time, so that if we're bringing a revised fee schedule to the town board, we're doing it once and we're correcting a few other opportunities that we saw as we're using the new fee schedule.
Any questions for the witness? Well, thank you for coming. I do appreciate the correspondence, and we will review and be back to you in short order.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Would anyone else in the large audience wish to come address the board on this public hearing? With that, I will accept a motion to close public hearing.
Moved.
And a second? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? The hearing is now closed. We'll now move on to Resolution 1A. Madam Clerk?
Regarding State Environmental Quality Review Act compliance for a local law to amend Town Code Chapter 235, Article 22, Regulation of Telecommunications.
Motion?
Moved.
And a second?
Second.
Ms. Ivers, explanation, please.
This is an unlisted action under the, under seeker. In looking at the potential impacts, the local law, is not associated with any significant or large, physical change. In fact, the modifications help to ensure that small cell will be, not an intrusive, implemented in an intrusive way in the town, and so there are no larger impacts that need to be addressed or mitigated, and so we're recommending a negative declaration for that reason.
Okay, any questions for Ms. Ivers? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? The resolution is adopted.
Item number 1B, adopting a local law to amend Town Code Chapter 235, Article 22, Regulations of Telecommunications.
Motion?
Moved.
And a second?
Second.
Thank you. Any questions or comments? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Resolution is adopted.
Public hearing number 2, on the matter of granting a special use permit for 2991 Culver Road in a C Business District.
Motion?
Moved.
And a second?
Second.
Hearing is now, take a motion to open public hearing.
Moved.
And a second.
Second.
Thank you. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? The hearing is now open. Ms. Ivers, an explanation, please, of the germane application.
Thank you. So the public hearing that's being conducted tonight is for a special use permit to allow an existing two-family unit to continue to exist. It's located in a C business district. The application does also request the contemplation of a downstairs office as well. In the C business district, a special use permit is required when you have a mix of uses in a building and when multifamily is involved. So anything more than a single family is considered multifamily in our code, and so that's why a special use permit is required. There was a, this was, you'll see in, and this board has reviewed the referral from the planning board from last month's meeting, as well as the Monroe County Planning Review is included as well.
Thank you. Is the applicant here? He's not. Okay. He is.
Right there.
Sir? Oh, would you mind just coming up and just if the board has a few questions, just identify your name and address, please.
My name is James Flamia, and I own the property at 2091 Culver Road.
Okay, just to get on record, the current use of the building is what?
Two family.
Two family. Okay. And it's our understanding there is a basement unit, correct?
It's
A
not
base-
a unit.
basement
The
space.
basement was finished 50, 60 years ago. And a couple of years ago, or a year ago, I noticed that I never go there, but I went in the basement and there was a lot of mildew. So I started taking the walls down, and it was loaded because the gutter in the front was pushed off for maybe 2 or 3 years. I don't know how long, might have been 10 years. And the water was seeping down into the basement. So I started taking the drywall out, and before I knew it, I took the whole basement out, and then I decided to replace it, and I added 12 feet to it.
Okay. Any questions from the board? All right. With that, you're excused if we have further questions, but I think we're good, and we thank you for coming tonight. Any further questions from Ms. Ivers? Take a motion to close public hearing.
Moved.
And a second.
Second.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Hearing is now closed. Madam Clerk, please call up the resolution.
Item number 2A, resolution in the matter of granting a special use permit for 2991 Culver Road in a C Business District.
Motion?
Moved.
And a second.
Second.
Thank you. At the workshop, we discussed the options by which we approve the special use permit, either as proposed to us or with the condition recommended by the planning board. I'm going to go with respectfully to the planning board, but just issuing the special use permit as proposed without the stipulation or condition recommended by the planning board. So, Madam Clerk, as proposed, the now therefore be it resolved would be that the town board hereby approves the special use permit, period. Can I have a motion to entertain that amendment? And a second?
Second.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Okay, the amendment is now live. Any questions or comments on the proposed resolution as amended? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Resolution is adopted.
Okay. Item number 4, awarding right-of-way tree removal services.
Motion. And a second.
Second.
Mr. Kiley, explanation, please.
Thank you, Mr. Supervisor. The resolution before the town board this evening authorizes the award for the removal of trees within the right-of-way to Terry Tree Services at 255 Jefferson Road here in Rochester. This bid was put out and published on March 14th. Those bids were publicly opened on March 29th with the lowest responsible bidder being Terry Tree with a 1.4566 multiplier to the established rates that the town put forth in the bid.
Thanks. Bob, what's the intent of this resolution?
So within the right-of-way, we have many older aging infrastructure and many aging trees. Several of those trees are very large in nature or are involved with wires. As such, our tree crew in-house can certainly perform those that work, but ultimately, when we get into the wires, we prefer a contractor to come in just for the safety of our employees.
Thanks, and I'll thank the town board for approving a pretty sizable appropriation to allow for this contracted service award. It certainly helps us meet the growing, ever-growing demand for tree removal, whether it's just our aging trees that have exceeded their lifespan or the ever-present emerald ash borer, which is necessitate us to take down hundreds of ash trees in town. So this is a good step moving forward, and this works off the work we did in our budget last year. Any questions or comments for the commissioner?
No, thank you, Commissioner Kiley, for working on this.
Thank you. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? The resolution is adopted.
Item number 5, declaring certain equipment as surplus property.
Motion? Moved. And a second?
Second.
Thank you. I will, Mr. Kiley, let me know if I just get anything wrong. This would declare surplus a number of vehicles from the Department of Public Works and the Sewer Department, including a 6-wheel dump truck with plow, Ford F-350, trackless sidewalk plow, another number of pieces of equipment, and a tow-behind Owen & Gennett's generator from the Sewer Department. Anything else you wanted to mention?
No, sir.
Thank you. Any questions or comments? All those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? Resolution is adopted.
Item number 6, authorizing highway superintendent to purchase equipment at the spring municipal equipment auction.
Motion?
Moved.
And a second? Second. Mr. Kiley, explanation, please.
Thank you, Mr. Supervisor. This resolution would allow myself, in addition to Mark Newman, our auto mechanic labor foreman, to attend the Palmyra Municipal Auction. This auction is a site where many other towns seek to purchase used equipment due to the 2016 fire. We continue to look for gently used pieces of equipment to fit into our rotation of our fleet, and as such seek to do that at the Palmyra auction, which is coming up here in May.
Thanks, Bob. I'll note the maximum limit we're giving you is $40,000, and hopefully that'll allow you to meet the needs. Any questions or comments?
Bob, do you have a list of what equipment's going to be at that auction yet? Or
We do not at this time, but
Okay.
we are looking for a 6-wheel dump truck in addition to a scissors lift and, if possible, a forklift.
okay, well they'll put a list out prior to the.
They typically do.
All right,
And
okay.
they'll allow us to inspect it. So they give us a couple of days to go in prior to. Typically, a couple of the mechanics and myself will go down, review, take a look at the equipment prior to the day of the auction.
Okay, very good. Thanks.
Thank you. Any questions or comments? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? The resolution is adopted.
Item number 7, awarding 4-inch portable sound attenuated diesel trailer mounted pump.
It's a mouthful, huh?
A motion
Moved.
and a second.
Second.
That's what she gets paid for. She sounds out those words like,
I've been practicing.
well done. Okay, the resolution has been seconded. Mr. Kylie, explanation, please.
Thank you, Mr. Supervisor. As the clerk very perfectly stated, this resolution is to award to AMCO Pump Manufacturing Incorporated. A sealed bid was opened. AMCO Pump Manufacturing was the lowest responsible bidder in that bid package for the 4-inch portable sound attenuated diesel trailer mounted pump. This is a pump to be used by our sanitation department in case of any failure at any one of our pump stations to be able to move any type of waste that is necessary. When we opened these bids, this manufacturer, AMCO, this vendor, was not able to provide clear and articulately a local dealer within 50 miles of Irondequoit for parts and service. After the fact, that company was able to provide the name and location and identify their service supplier, Rock Rents, in Webster, New York, and as such, we find them responsible. And look forward to pursuing this in the amount of $35,210.
Thank you. Questions or comments? Pardon?
I have an ad.
Okay. The town attorney would like to suggest a amendment to the resolution?
Just on Commissioner Kylie's
Oh,
description,
okay.
that it was queried whether the two lowest bid were responsible bidders. They were offered a chance pursuant to their due process rights to provide information that disproved a factual misunderstanding, and they were able to provide evidence that there was a pump servicing in service and sale location within 50 miles. So it was not that they provided additional material. They were offered a chance to rebut the fact that they were not a responsible bidder,
Thank
and
you.
successfully did so. And that's why we pay you the big bucks.
Thank you, counsel.
You're welcome.
Any further questions or comments, clarifications? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? The resolution is adopted.
Item number 8, awarding bid for the List Avenue Pump Station Replacement Project.
Motion
Moved.
and a second.
Second?
Thank you. Mr. Kylie, explanation, please.
This resolution would award the a bid for the List Avenue Pump Station to Lamis Construction in the amount of $205,430. This bid package was published on March 7th and publicly opened on March 28th. Lamis was the lowest responsible bidder for this. This is a project that was put into our capital improvement program for 2019. This would be the replacement of the pump station on List Avenue, just north of Hoover on List, east side of List, north of Hoover, kitty corner to the school district. So construction will commence as soon as school is out and will conclude prior to school opening.
Thank you. Any questions or comments? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? The resolution is adopted.
Item number 9, awarding bid for the 2019 area sewer improvements, Washington and Beach Avenues.
Motion
Moved.
and a second.
Second.
Commissioner Kylie, explanation, please.
Thank you, Mr. Supervisor. This resolution awards the bid for the sanitary sewer replacement on Washington Avenue to Genesee Building Restoration in the amount of $412,000 even. This project would see the replacement of 760 feet of 8-inch sanitary sewer on that roadway, in addition to all of the laterals for the homes, roadway resurfacing, sidewalk replacement where laterals conflict with existing infrastructure, etc. This was publicly bid. This was the second time we bid this. The first time there was ambiguity within the bid documents, thus we rejected all bids. And as such, I'm happy to put forth this a resolution. The engineer's estimate for this project was $442,320, with Genesee Building Restoration coming in at, again, $412,000.
Thanks, Bob. Any questions on the resolution? Glad to see this is getting done. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? The resolution is adopted.
Item number 10, accepting a gift for the Arbor Day celebration.
Motion
Moved.
and a second.
Second.
Mr. Kylie, explanation, please.
Thank you, Mr. Supervisor. This resolution accepts a gift in the amount of $200 from the Rochester Ukrainian Group. The Rochester Ukrainian Group and the town have had a very strong partnership through the years, and as such, we, on Arbor Day of this year, will plant a tree symbolizing our ongoing partnership with our sister city in Ukraine, right on the west lawn here of Town Hall. And as such, the Rochester Ukrainian Group sought to pay for half of the tree that will be planted. That tree will be an oak tree and will be planted here on Arbor Day, a couple of weeks away.
Thank you, and we're excited about that. We thank our friends from the Ukrainian community. The existing tree, which was planted during the inception of our sister city relationship with the city of Poltava, Ukraine. Unfortunately, the tree got a little sick last year, and as a result, we had to cut it down. But Ukrainian community now is a oak tree,
Correct,
and
sir.
we hope will last many years. We're also placing a bench next to the tree as well. It spawned from a event we had last year, calling for some peace and civility in our society. So we very much thank our Ukrainian community. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Resolution is adopted.
Item number 11, transferring funds from the Stormwater Drainage Fund balance to Stormwater Drainage Contracted Services account.
A motion
Moved.
and a second.
Second.
Mr. Kylie, explanation, please.
Thank you, Mr. Supervisor. This resolution would move $85,000 from the Stormwater Drainage Fund balance to the Stormwater Drainage Operating Contracted Services line within the 2019 budget for purposes to install, remove, and reinstall many of the concrete gutters that line several of the roads within certain neighborhoods that we seek to resurface this year. Prior to any resurfacing operations, milling and filling of different roadways, we always review any infrastructure associated with the road network, underground and above ground, and as such, we found that this investment is necessary to ensure that the roadway can be completely stabilized and really reconstructed. So this would move $85,000 from the Stormwater Drainage Fund balance to the operating account for purposes of removal and replacement of concrete gutters.
Thank you. Questions or comments for the commissioner? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? The resolution is adopted.
Item number 12, calling for a public hearing to extend the Consolidated Sewer District to include 150 Lake Bluff Road.
Motion.
Move.
And a second.
Second.
Commissioner Kylie, your final explanation of the evening.
Last one, sir. So this would call for a public hearing to be held at next month's town board meeting. That town board meeting will be held on May 21st, 2019. This public hearing has been called to allow the property at 150 Lake Bluff Road to enter into the Consolidated Sewer District. That property is currently on septic and seeks to connect into the Consolidated Sewer District. Pursuant to our codes, the public hearing will be called, and the general public will be allowed to speak at that to see if anyone objects to their entrance into the Consolidated Sewer District.
I won't ask you to recite the section of state law that requires us to hold the public hearing, but, and there is no current temporary out-of-district user agreement, correct?
Excuse me?
There is not currently a temporary out-of-district user agreement?
No, sir.
Thank you. Okay, so they have not connected yet. All right, any questions or comments? All right, all those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? The resolution is adopted.
Item number 13, authorizing the scheduling of a public hearing pertaining to the adoption of the Arundecoit 2019 Community Development Block Grant Program.
Motion.
Moved.
And a second.
Second.
Comptroller Seeley, explanation, please.
I'll read some bullets from the resolution. Whereas the town of Arundecoit is a community development entitlement community and as such receives an annual block grant from the U.S. Department of Housing and Urban Development. And whereas the town is expecting to receive a block grant from HUD for its 2019 Community Development Block Grant Program, which will begin August 1st, 2019 and end on July 31st, 2020 in the approximate amount of $898,207. Whereas the town has prepared a community development block grant program in anticipation of receiving HUD funding for its 2019 program year. And the town is required to hold a public hearing on this matter in compliance with rules and regulations promulgated by HUD. The town board should schedule a public hearing at the regular meeting of May 21st, 2019 at 7:35 in the matter of adoption of the Arundequoit 2019 Community Development Block Grant Program in the approximate amount of $898,207 for submittal by the town supervisor to HUD. And that amount is our award. We received our award on Monday.
Thanks, Annie. And just a little context here. Our CDBG program allows us to make a number of investments to our infrastructure, allows us to provide a number of services that target low to moderate income residents or senior residents. And doing so allows us to fulfill a lot of goals and initiatives identified by the town board, whether in our comprehensive plan or just through our actions. As always, our home improvement program is a staple that will continue to be funded. It will also use reserve funding from previous years to allow us to meet the demand. We will be continuing the housing counseling program through the Housing Council, which works with people who are in danger of going into foreclosure, trying to get them back on track with their mortgage or their tax delinquency. A number of other programs. We will continue to invest heavily in our street resurfacing program, which allows us to do a bulk of our street resurfacing. It has to be targeted towards specific census-designated areas of town, which there are plenty of. So a lot of the paving we've done has been through that. We also will be reimagining our senior transportation program, which we're excited about, to allow us to continue to meet, or I would say expand the demand for this and make it more consumer-friendly. And finally, we renew our investment in the Arundequoit Community Covered Healthy Eating Program. And I'll just also note, we are not continuing the vacant turnaround playground initiative. However, we have identified the money from last year to be used to invest in a new playground on Wall Road. Thank you, Mr. Kiley. So this will set the public hearing. Barb Johnson, our consultant from Labello Associates, will be here next month to speak to that. We will have the public hearing. And I will also note we have a CDBG advisory board, which Councilwoman Romeo sat on, but also is staffed by 5 members of the community. They review these recommended programs for funding. They provide guidance. They also they formally sign off on, but give consensus to our recommendations, and they certainly provide valued input. And I just want to thank them for their time and investment on that effort a few weeks ago, spending an entire morning with us. I will note the CDBG funding award was $9,000 above what we had received last year. It was the decision of the advisory board to put anything above the baseline number into our street repaving program, so that will allow Commissioner Kiley to buy more asphalt. Any questions or comments? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Resolution is adopted.
Item number 16, entering into a memorandum of understanding.
Motion.
Moved.
And a second. Chief, explanation, please.
Thank you, Mr. Supervisor. This resolution will allow us the opportunity to enter into a memorandum of understanding with Matthew Doward, who is the owner-operator of A Horse's Friend, for us to be able to utilize his horse Bermuda for community engagement efforts on the part of the Arundequoit Police Department. The memorandum would agree that we would have 10 such events that we would be able to use Bermuda for, and that he will provide the transportation to and from the sites that we are involved with community engagement. We know how important that is. We know that there's a strong connection between mounted units from other police agencies and the community. We are fortunate to have a police officer that is certified to ride a real horse, and we're very fortunate to be able to move forward with this. This is a one-year agreement, and it will be evaluated during that time period to ensure that both the Arundequoit Police Department, the town of Arundequoit, and Mr. Doward wish to move forward with this in the future.
Thank you, Chief. Is the member of the department who will be is well-trained to ride and mount the horse here tonight?
She is. It would be Sergeant Franco.
Okay, I see she's
Would you be
brought a
willing to
horse.
demonstrate? Yeah,
Hopefully
maybe
not the horse that
demonstrate.
we will be renting, but,
Right.
thank you, and, this is a,
Name is Hobby.
any questions or comments? All those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed, resolution is adopted.
Item number 17, resolution to attend New York State Police Juvenile Conference.
Motion. Moved. In a second.
Second.
Chief, explanation, please.
Thank you, Mr. Supervisor. The resolution before you is for Sergeant Jessica Franco and Investigator Bradley Lape to attend the annual training conference associated with the New York State Police Juvenile Officers Association. This is a very important training program for us as it establishes best practices for that very special skill set that officers need, especially dealing with juvenile population. I believe this is more important than really in the past as a result of the raise the age legislation that passed, and just to make sure that we adhere to all of the protocols and regulations associated with that. And this not only benefits the police department, but it also benefits the families that we engage with who need the services of our agency.
Thank you. Any questions or comments? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, the resolution is adopted.
Item number 18, declaring surplus property and authorizing the auction of said items.
Motion.
Moved.
A second.
Second.
Chief, explanation, please.
Thank you, Mr. Supervisor. The resolution before you is to seek approval to have the surplus equipment that's been identified be auctioned off with the proceeds coming back to the town of Arundecoit. You have the list before you, which includes a 2010 Ford Crown Victoria, which is really beyond its useful life for the police department, as well as a 2001 Ford Crown Victoria, which has really served us very well but is no longer safe to operate, as well as a outdated light bar and one desk that is badly damaged.
Thank you. Any questions or comments? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, the resolution is adopted. Madam Clerk, before we move on to the next resolution, members have in their packets a proposed local law to amend Chapter 40 of the Code of the Town of Arundecoit relating to officers and employees to the town. Do I have a motion to introduce that in a second?
Second.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Okay, the proposed law has been introduced. Madam Clerk, please call item for board action number 19.
Calling for a public hearing on a proposed local law to amend Chapter 40 of the Code of the Town of Arundecoit relating to officers and employees.
A motion
Moved.
and a second.
Second.
Thank you. The introduced legislation would amend Chapter 40 of the Town Code pursuant to Section 23 of Town Law and Section 3 of Public Officers Law to require that the Director of the Department of Community Development in the Town of Arundecoit be a county resident, whereas it now currently requires they be a town resident. It also amends Town Code, Chapter 40 of Town Code, to institute the same residency requirements for the Director of the Department of Recreation, requiring them to be a county resident. We rely on town residents to staff, to serve as department heads, and some that don't, in the interest of ensuring that we can continue to select from the best pool of applicants while maintaining the goal of residency, but not having that serve as an ultimate requirement. I'm introducing this legislation to provide us with that flexibility. Any questions or comments on calling of the hearing? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Resolution is adopted.
Item number 20, calling for a public hearing on a proposed local law to amend Chapter 44 and Chapter 1 of the Code of the Town of Arundecoit relating to town recreation services.
Motion
Moved.
and a second.
Second.
Okay, within that, members have on their, in their packet, a proposed law to amend Chapter 44 and Chapter 1 of the Code of the Town of Arundecoit. Do I have a motion to introduce that proposed legislation? And a second? Second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Thank you. The legislation has now been introduced. This would call a public hearing with regards to this proposed amendment to Chapter 44 and Chapter 1. In short, it would create the Town of Arundecoit Recreation Law. As our Recreation Department has evolved over the past several years, and with the likelihood, and there'll be probably an announcement in the coming weeks, hopefully, on the proposed community center at Arundecoit Mall. The growth of our Department of Recreation will continue, and we feel it necessary now to distinguish the Department of Recreation in town law to focus directly on the mission of providing recreation services to the people of Arundecoit. In doing so, this would create the Director of Recreation, as was mentioned and referenced in the previous proposed town law. So that adoption of that provision of town law is probably dependent on adoption of this as well. But we just feel it's necessary now to give the Department of Recreation a clear focus. As current, they operate under the Department of Community, the Department of Public Works and the Bureau of Recreation. And that was a decision made several years ago, and at the time, I think it was the right decision and reflected the current needs of the town. But as we have continued to grow, and the growth of the Department of Recreation has been exceptional over these past few years, and we hope to help facilitate the continued growth. So that's why I'm presenting this legislation for consideration. Questions or comments on calling the public hearing for next month? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Resolution is adopted. Before we adjourn, apologize, Madam Clerk, pursuant to Section 105 of Open Meetings Law, I move we enter into executive session for a brief discussion of proposed acquisition or sale, or lease of real property. In this case, it would be the sale of real property, the discussion, public of which may impact its sale price. Do I have a motion?
Moved.
And a second?
Second.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
body of work for tonight's regular town board meeting. Next workshop meeting, Tuesday, May 14th, 2019, 4 p.m. here at the Broderick Meeting Room at Arundecoit Town Hall. The next regular town board meeting is Tuesday, May 21st, 2019 at 7 p.m. here at the Broderick Meeting Room at Arundecoit Town Hall. I thank the board members for their time tonight and will now entertain a motion to adjourn. In a second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Meeting is adjourned.
We hope you enjoyed this presentation of the Arundecoit Town Board on ICAT, Government Access. We hope you enjoyed this presentation of the Arundecoit Town Board on ICAT, Government Access.